One of my viewers in this very awesome channel here asked if I could share how I set up to paint for the day. Go over my paints, my colors, my brushes, the way I set up my easel, everything. And you know what? I've been doing a lot of painting in my garage because it's been so beautiful out, which means I've taken everything from this room and moved it to my garage, and I had to reset up everything. So I might as well share the process so that way you can get some ideas on how you can make your art station slash paint battle station a little more seamless or flow better, or maybe I'll give you new ideas so that way you can take them and put them in your art studio. But the very first thing you need to do is make sure you're wearing the appropriate clothes. Hopefully that transition was smooth. This is my art getup. I wear a junky t-shirt, I wear junky pants. Please excuse the feet pics. Usually you pay extra for that. You're welcome, ladies. And I wear junky shorts, which look like a middle schooler's wet dream. Essentially, you want to wear clothes that you don't mind getting dirty or color on them, because yes, they are going to get dirty. I don't care what measures you take to stay clean. Your clothes are going to get ruined, so please wear ones that you don't mind getting ruined. I also like to wear a hat. It's not just a fashion statement. It's to collect my hair so it doesn't fall into my mixing palette or onto my canvas, ruining anything. But generally, I will take my hat and I will wear it backwards, not just because I look like a badass, it's because it moves the bill out of the way. I like to work close on my art sometimes, and generally I've had numerous times where the bill will actually hit the canvas and remove paint, which is why I put it backwards. Now let's move to the garage and do some behind the scenes, and you can see exactly how I set up everything and why I do it in that fashion. So here is my garage and how I generally set up all of my painting stations when I do have to paint. I'll have a staging area where I keep all my supplies, and then I have my painting slash easel area where I get all my production work done. Let's start with the easel side. The very first thing I do is put on my apron. Not only does my apron protect my clothing, it actually is a really good spot to put my phone, so if I ever need to get to it for easy access. But I also love the pockets on my apron too. Generally I'll stuff extra paper towels or a rag in here for easy access to wipe off my paintbrush, or sometimes I'll even put colors in there that I need for later. But apron's always the first thing. Now I'm using the Bob Ross 2-in-1 easel, which you can watch a review in the top right corner now, but it comes with a shelf, and as you see, my shelf is blank except it has wax paper or parchment paper that's clamped down with binder clips and A-clamps and whatever will hold it down. And the reason I do that is to protect the shelf from paint. When I'm generally painting, I like to take my dirty paint brushes when I'm not using them and lay them down, and I like to generally keep either tools on one side and brushes on another side, or lighter colors and darker color brushes on one side or the other side. But when I'm all done using it, I can easily just take this parchment paper here, crumple it up and throw it away. Makes for real easy cleaning. Over on the right side, we have my cleaning bucket here that has my clean thinner in there with a screen at the bottom to wipe off excess paint. And that's all contained inside this heavy-duty Ziploc bag, which is easy for when I have to do cleaning later. When I take my dirty brush, I'll put it in there, go through the screen a number of times, and then take the paintbrush on the side and wiggle off the excess painter, sometimes beat it just a little bit on the sides to wipe it all off. Then I'll take this brush and I'll give it to my beater rack, which is inside this trash can here. Go back and forth really hard, wipe off all the excess thinner. I'll put that back underneath. And then if there's any residual thinner stuck on these hairs or bristles here, I'll just take it and I dab it right off on this towel that I keep nice in here for easy access. And that's all this towel is used for, is wiping off excess thinner. On the support beams of my easel, I have a bungee cord connecting back and forth, looped in with some paper towels. Now these paper towels are for working off excess paint that's on my paintbrush from me blending, and I'll gingerly just wipe it back and forth and take off that excess paint. Or sometimes if there's left on thinner, I'll just dab it on here really quick. This is a really quick solution for getting off any excess paint on your paintbrush that you don't want. Really recommend it if you plan on blending a lot of colors together. And at the very bottom of my easel, I like to put a nice heavy weight. Not only good for getting muscles to show off to girls, but good for putting extra support on my easel so it doesn't shake, rattle, and roll. The more weight you can put down here, the better. I recommend putting weights or sandbags or even a cinder block or bricks work really well. Just make sure you get a nice little junky shelf like I have here to distribute the weight so it doesn't really put too much weight on anything. If you have an easel that's an H easel like I'm showing here, I generally use sandbags, which are great, that I hang at the bottom edge of the easel, which works fantastic as well. All right, let's move over to our staging area. And the very first thing I want to talk about is gloves. Getting any type of gloves is highly recommended if you know you're going to be very messy. I like to protect my hands from stains or pigments that might get under my nails, or if you're very sensitive on your skin, I highly recommend having gloves. They're worth it. Get these at Costco. You can get huge discounts on them. The next thing I like to have is a paper plate with the gesso that I'm going to be using. I'll generally squirt this down into the paper plate and use a big paintbrush and apply it to my canvas. I generally always have white and black hanging around, but I've only got black down here for today because I was working on black canvases. Next, over on the far left side is where I would keep my mediums. Now I only have two here, which is liquid white and a liquid clear medium, but if I had any linseed oils or like I have here, which is my Gamblin solvent-free gel, I'll generally keep these all on one side so they're easy access and I know exactly where to grab them. On the back here, you've noticed this is my shelf where I hang all of my paintbrushes. Now these are all clean paint brushes, as well as the ones down there. Now the reason I like to keep my paintbrushes up here and not on my shelf is because I know these are clean and I keep them in a particular order so I know what I'm grabbing when I need to grab it at a moment's access. The minute that I grab a paintbrush to use and it gets dirty, it immediately moves over to my easel shelf, so that way I can keep them separated between light and dark colors or soft and stiff bristles. This shelf here is also what I use to hang my paintbrushes after I'm done cleaning for the day, so that way the air can get to all the bristles here and everything drips down and away from the ferrule so none of the glue gets damaged. I highly recommend either building a shelf like this or at least get yourself a metallic bar. They're super awesome. Now when it comes to colors, I only lay out colors that I'll be using for that particular painting, so that way I don't get overwhelmed with trying to experiment with too much. The painting that I'm currently working on only uses white, blue, a little bit of red, a lot of purple, a little bit of black, and of course, white again. I use a lot of white for my paintings and I'll use that to change the hues or the shades or whatever I need. If I need to access any of my other colors, I keep those under the table in a nice foldable square container box here that I'll show you on a picture. This way I can still access them, but I don't like to get overwhelmed by colors I don't need. You'll also notice that I don't have any of the colors pre-squirted out on my mixing palette, and that's because I'm a frugal painter. I like to only use paints when I need them, so I'll squirt them out on my mixing palette as I need them. Since we're talking about the mixing palette, this is my mixing palette. Now it's a very large plastic mixing palette that's comfortable in my hand. You'll notice that it has a gray background, a neutral gray background, which I like because it represents all my colors that will be true when I mix them together. I highly recommend that you customize yours if you can. Now you may have noticed by design, I leave a space on my staging table for my mixing palette. And that's because I don't always like to hold my mixing palette. My arm gets tired or I just want to have full concentration with my hands or my arms or my brushes. So I like to leave the space here so I can always rest my mixing palette down. And sometimes I'll just work straight off the mixing palette with colors and blend right here. When it comes to my miscellaneous paintbrushes, like my fan brushes, my script liners, my flats, my rounds, my angled shaders, I generally like to keep them near my mixing palette so I can grab the paintbrush, mix my color, then go up to the canvas. I also like to keep an extra bottle of clean thinner around in case I need to add more to my cleaning bucket. And perhaps my favorite tool of all is this right here. Scott Shop Towels. These are fantastic. Please get the big box because you'll use them often. I use these almost as much as I use my paint brushes. Just rip off a nice square here, and generally these are too big, so I like to rip them in half nice and clean, and I'll use one for painting, and then I take the other half and I stuff it in my apron for when I need it for later, or cleaning my hands or wiping off excess paint from my paintbrush. This right here is one of the best tools. Just to the side of my easel, but still in my staging area, is a nice and clean junk towel that I just get off Amazon. You can actually buy these in bulk. Now I use this for a multitude of things. Wiping off excess thinner, wiping off excess paint, really cleaning the paintbrush if there's anything stuck in the bristles here. This is a junk towel and I use it as such. Here you can see my old one that I was using that I sometimes circulate through. These are just meant to be war horses that are meant to really clean off certain things that you want to get off in case you need a clean paintbrush. I'll sometimes even push my paintbrush in here to get the bristles more to bloom because all these extra fibers will pull things apart. Here's my wax paper that I keep for the easel that we talked about earlier. And one of my favorite additions is also having some music while I paint. Get yourself a nice Bluetooth speaker, or if you're fortunate enough to have a TV near you, you can stream anything like Pandora or YouTube music on the TV. And then I like to keep a bottle of Simple Clean near me so that way I can use it for cleaning up on my mixing palette when I'm all done. This stuff is simply the best. Another tool that I think is worth mentioning is you're probably painting in a warm climate area, And I like to have a fan sometimes blow on me, or sometimes I like to have it blow away the fumes from my thinners and stuff like that. Now I'll generally have it blow on the lower side of me so it pushes everything away from me or keep me cool, but I wanna really bring home, don't have this blow on you and towards your painting, because it could blow moisture from your sweat onto the painting, or it could blow dirt or dust into your painting, or hairs, or sometimes if you live somewhere like in Florida, you're gonna get a lot of bugs going onto your paint. I don't know what it is about bugs, but they love acrylic paint and they love thinner chemicals and they love medium chemicals. I don't know why, they're attracted to it, which is another reason why sometimes I like to use a fan. I'll actually turn this on really low setting and have it point down near my feet. So that way if there's any bugs trying to fly around down there, they just get blown away. Especially those pesky mosquitoes. I hate those little bastards. One piece of equipment that I can't live without within my art studio here is this right here. I recommend get yourself a nice cold frosty beverage, an adult one if you can, and put it in a nice chambered koozie that's gonna keep your drink nice and cool. I think sometimes having a little bit of liquid courage helps you when it comes to painting, and it makes you a little bit more creative because you're not as analytical and you'll be a little more free and loose. And God, that tastes good. Yeah, no follow-up sentence to that. Just get a beer. Oh, I love painting and drinking. One of the last tools that I use for my art setup and painting setup is this right here. I like to have a stool to take a rest on. Sometimes it's just good to clear your head, or if you're painting on lower sections of your easel, or if your easel adjusts, you can do whatever you want. But sometimes it's good to relax. Also, don't forget to step away from your canvas at times. The reason I like to paint outside or in my garage is I can refresh my eyes with natural light and de-stress, which is another reason why to give yourself more space. Get up, take breaks often. And another reason why I like to have a staging area versus a painting area, because it'll make me move back and forth and give me new perspectives of when I'm looking at my art. When you sit really close to it all the time, you nitpick, and you don't want to do that. A lot of people aren't going to look at your art from 3 inches away. They're going to look at it from 3, 6, 9, and beyond, as in feet beyond away. So keep that in mind. Hopefully you enjoyed this behind the scenes of how I set up my entire painting station. This was really rough and my garage is messy, so forgive me. I'm not trying to impress anyone out there unless you're a single woman looking for a over-ambitious man that's slightly above average with good hair that has mediocre painting skills but pretending he has good painting skills. Hey, then if that's you, then yeah, I'm trying to impress you. I might have missed some things, but if I did, maybe I'll do an update video down the road when I do in my normal art studio. And if there's anything unique about your painting situation or your setup, hey, let us know in the comments down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I gotta finish my drink here, which looks nice, cold, and frosty, and I'll see you all later.